So, pronounce your last name. I think I pronounce it correctly, but I'm not 100% sure. Is it Walblay? Okay.
Yeah, right. You do it right.
You picked coffee for your sipper.
Yes.
And I stopped and got a few things, just a Dunkin'.
Oh, thank you
Do you
so
like
much.
iced or hot? We're going to sip and see what we think also as we're like chatting.
I like all coffee, all coffee,
all right.
but usually warm.
So tell us about, do you miss California on mornings like this?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Actually, I was just talking to my mom. She's out there right now. And yeah, wishing that I could be there as well.
This morning was kind of unexpectedly like
freezing.
Unpleasant.
I know. Well, a few days ago, my son was telling me that it's supposed to snow on Wednesday, and I am really bad about, like, I never look at the weather report myself. I just go off of what people tell me. So I was, like, yesterday chatting it up with clients, like, oh, are you ready for the snow? Everybody's like, is it? Is it supposed to snow? I'm like,
then you're like, oh.
My 11-year-old told me it was.
I'm going off of his weather report. He's like banking for snow, like a snow day from school.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I haven't had one yet.
I am too. They kind of, like last week, I think there was one day last week where they probably should have.
Yeah.
Or I was surprised that they didn't anyway.
Yeah. See, I told you.
Almost.
It's hazelnut.
So this one is hazelnut. And then this is the holiday signature latte. And it had like some sprinkles and stuff on the top. But they've since dissipated. And then this is just the regular Dunkin', like basic warm coffee, hot coffee. I'm gonna do the hazelnut first.
Hazelnut first? Okay, cheers.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
I know, I was really going for it.
Hey.
Slow down.
All right, it's not too sweet.
Right.
I don't like too
that.
sweet. I thought it was going to be, I don't ever drink Dunkin'. It was just around the corner from the house. I was like, I'll stop at Dunkin'.
Yeah.
I thought it would be take you in the face sweet.
Sweeter.
Yeah, I
Oh.
definitely taste coffee in
It
that,
looks
which
like
is
it's
good.
going to be sweet, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks
This one looks like it's going to be very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do that one too?
Oh, yeah, I just want to see.
Looks maybe sweeter. We'll see.
Yeah.
Sweeter.
Oh, yeah,
I
there's
like
a
it.
lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
I get a piece
Cinnamon-y?
of cookie?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else, you got a piece of cookie?
I
Yeah, I
got
got
something
something.
floating around.
Like a
It's
graham
like a little
cracker, maybe?
snack, too.
Interesting.
Yeah, there, you got it, didn't you?
That was ice. I was trying to
Hmm.
find something snack-like.
Okay.
What did it say? Oh, oops. Brown
Good.
sugar syrup, toasted almond shot. Maybe that's what we're tasting, like the toasted
that
almond
I don't know.
or
That was,
something.
it was,
Good. It's sweeter.
Milk.
it is.
Yeah.
I got
The
a
other
piece of a
two things
cookie
in.
or a graham cracker or
Whipped
something.
cream.
It was
Yeah.
a sprinkle.
Okay.
So you started doing fine line tattoos, which I'm super excited about.
It's
I
so
want to
fun.
come and get one, but I can't make up my mind what I
Yeah.
want. I'm torn between two
Well, take your
things,
time.
so.
No rush.
Well, so what do you mean by back up? What's fine line tattoos?
So fine line tattooing, it's really blown up in popularity recently.
Mhm.
It's very similar to traditional body tattooing, but it's done specifically with a single needle.
Okay.
So the lines are a lot thinner. It's kind of a different approach to tattooing. You have like traditional tattoo artists that go through like a really lengthy apprenticeship in a shop. Kind of very well respected.
Mhm.
Not that this isn't well respected, but it's just kind of like a different entry to tattooing, I'd
Okay.
say. It's more like makeup artists are finding this as something to also add to what they do. But yeah,
It's like feminine, I feel like, and
yes,
minimalistic.
it's more
So-
dainty, more feminine, I'd say. It heals. I mean, I have one right now it is.
Oh,
needing
okay.
a
So that's an
touch-up.
example. Okay.
Yeah, so it shouldn't heal quite this dainty, but
Uh-huh.
close. I mean, it needs a minimal touch up, but that's about what that
So where do
looks like.
people usually get a fine line tattoo? Like,
like where
is
on the
that-
body?
yeah, like
you could get
face or just okay. So it
yeah,
can
you
be
could
anywhere.
get it anywhere,
obviously.
really. Anywhere that you can tattoo someone.
So are you looking at getting a face tat stuff?
Are you saying you want a face tat?
Teardrop.
Teardrop. There are certain areas it doesn't heal well on, and I'm still admittedly newer to this, so I'm learning a lot. My cousin Lindsay, she was the one who trained me in fine line tattooing. So, Lindsay's fine line tattooing. So she's in Zanesville, and she's the one who trained me and everything, and she's my go-to girl for get stuck and like, how do I do this in Procreate? Because that's the program on the iPad to design the images and all of that. Still learning that. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm very
So
beginner
someone has
level
to
at a
come
lot of
to
this
you
stuff.
like a week in advance, be like, "This is what I want as a fine line," so that you can.
Yes. So
program
there
it
are designs that I've created that people
Mhm.
can pick from.
Mhm.
And so I'll advertise those. So especially like if it's just fun little, friends want to go get a matching tattoo and
Yeah.
just select something, that's so easy because
Mhm.
it's already designed. But I've had a lot of people reach out like they want their like I had 2 sisters reach out. They wanted their dad's handwriting of their maiden name tattooed on them. So they got 2 of the same matching, like on their rib area.
One of the things I think I want to do.
So
and like
touching.
my mom and my parents probably won't like that, but like I think it's super sweet.
But it's such a small image. So so fine line tattooing, back to your question, it is tattooing. It's with a fine singular needle. So the line is thin. There is fine line tattooing that you can do very large, you know, like a whole sleeve or something. But specifically what I do is fine line tattooing in tiny tattoo form.
Okay.
So like 1 to 4 inches. So it's really small. I think also that's why people who don't really do tattoos are like, yeah, let's go do it. Let's get my first tattoo. Because it's so
Little,
dainty.
right.
And little.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You can blend in and hide.
A pen. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Cost-wise, what is it? What does that look like if someone wanted to get
now,
one?
my price point is between $99 and $120.
Okay.
And that's, again, just 1 to 4 inch size. You know, pretty small little tattoo. If it's something that's a lot more detail, requires different size needles, shading, eventually color, things like that, that I would incorporate, the price will go up from there. But
Do you enjoy that?
I love it.
So you think you'll expand upon it?
Definitely. Yeah, I've always loved to draw. Like, since I could hold a pencil, I've loved to draw. And I remember being younger, kind of like wishing I could be some sort of artist, but make money off it. And it was this like pull between 2 things. I think that's how I ended up in hair, where I'm like, okay, it's creative enough.
Right.
And the people are energizing. But this feels a lot more like what I'm actually interested in, which is drawing. And
But it took you a while to get to where maybe your little passion is in your business. Because you do so many things, but then there's just one part that you've truly fallen in love with. Basically.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why it took me like all the way around to get there. I don't know.
You just like taking the scenic route.
I think it's also my ADD. Like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this probably wasn't even a thing how many ever years ago.
It really wasn't.
It's kind of a newer
In fact,
phenomenon.
I have only one other tattoo, which is this horrible, ugly flower on my shoulder that I thought at 18, this is going to be so great. And I had been requesting what is essentially a fine line tattoo. But back then, you know, in the early 2000s,
that was not fine
they were like,
line.
we don't have needles that small, which I don't know if they did or not, but that's not what I got.
Right. I don't think so either, because I think that's probably what most women have been looking for a long time.
Yeah.
So you started in hair, you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. So I went to the Aveda Institute in Cincinnati, and then I started at a salon here in Dayton. I loved working there. It's a larger salon. They have a lot of locations now. I was an employee there, and I had kind of worked my way up to master stylist level. And then I got to the point where I'm like, well, I'm working full time. I'm still working for someone else. And it just, I think especially once I became a mom, I was like, my whole schedule is being led by what someone else needs of me. And this is not feasible with like, it's getting into sports and weekend activities. And so I just decided I'm going to have to work for myself, and branched out, started doing hair on my own. A couple of my friends came with me, and we just worked independently together. And then that same friend who I'd work with, she trained me how to microblade, and then we got into microblading, and then that just built into this
whole concept.
Newer thing. Yeah.
of all
I love it.
different things.
So in terms of microblading, how do you like that a lot?
I
I mean, it's
do.
pretty intense. We've talked about it. I've had it done. It's pretty intense.
I love microblading. I think because of how it's exploded across, I mean, literally everywhere you look now, you can find a microblading artist. When I first got into it a little over 7 years ago, it was just a few people. Like the friend of mine who trained me, she had to go to Canada to get trained. Like there was almost no one doing it. And that wasn't even 10 years ago. Now, everybody that you know of has had, mostly everybody knows somebody who's gotten microbladed at least. And the problem with it, though, is that it's a lot of people have work on their face that you can't just go over it with more microblading. There are a lot of situations where it's like, oh, okay, that skin is oversaturated. We're going to need to remove some, or we need to correct something. It's just become a different, a very complex thing. Whereas when I first started, nobody had tattoos in their eyebrow. And so you would just microblade what looked good. So I love it.
Yeah.
But it's just changed a lot. It's a lot more corrective work now. So That's, I think,
which is what we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, other than brows and the fine line tattoos, do you do other types of permanent makeup as well? Or is that pretty much all you're seeing?
I've focused on eyebrows because I really enjoy it. I was doing eyeliner for a little while. I did not enjoy that. I did not at all enjoy that. I like
because it was on the eye
yes,
itself. Okay.
Actually, that was the problem. Yeah, I mean, I think to me, I was like, I would never get this done because that just freaks me out. I don't even like other people putting mascara on me. I just don't like that with the eyeballs. And it wasn't ever something I was passionate about learning. I just kind of was like, yeah, sure, this is what this company needs of me. I'm going to learn this and do it. And I was proud of myself for trying it and taking on the challenge. But every day that I was doing it, I did not like it. And I was thankfully busy enough in brows where I could choose, like, I'm going to just focus on the things I really like.
That's I mean, that's intense. That's a lot of like trust and I don't know.
Right. So you feel that as you've like niched down and really focused on what you really want to focus on, that your business has expanded a lot then? Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of dabbling in a million different things, you're saying, hey, if I do these 3 or 4 items, I feel like I can really create a name for myself.
Exactly. And I really kind of like that anyway. I like the idea of being more of a specialist of specifics rather than just what you described, like doing a little bit of everything. I know artists who do a little bit of everything and that works for them.
Right.
And that's really impressive, actually, that they can do all those things.
And keep up with everything that goes along with that.
Right. Yeah.
Why do you like working for yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, I already touched on this.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think that's the main thing for me. I've always felt, especially, again, being a mom, getting older, I feel like time is definitely the most valuable asset that we have over everything. And so if there's a way for me to maximize my income in the littlest amount of time possible so that I can get back to being a mom and engaging with my family, then that's like, I'm going to find the way to do that.
So do you shut it off once you leave the office, so to speak?
What do you mean by shut it off?
No phones being answered, no text responding to, or so that you can truly focus, or do you just limit
you
your...
just like, do you let it filter in? I mean, you're asking for a reason because that's something that we both struggle with shutting it off.
No, I think that's a great question. And if you find a solution to that, let me know.
Finding 2 phones and putting one away.
I think that actually would be. So a friend of mine, she's one of my clients, and she also is an esthetician and does lashes and stuff. We've talked about this when she's come in for me to do her brows. She's like, she was giving me pointers, and I need to just sit down and do it. But the pointers were like, get a different phone number. You don't even need to have a different phone. You can just get I don't know what it was.
Like a Google.
Yeah. And just all of your business calls go to that. And then and I think that's where I just need to sit down and like get more organized. Right now it's like business number is my personal number, and it's all flooding into the same place. At least my emails are different, my socials are different, but you still have to open the same app. Like if I'm getting on Instagram, it's like, well, there's my personal page, there's my business page. I'm flip-flopping between the two, and it's so easy to, before you know it, you're just like answering DMs and and then it's like you're doing it while you're trying to cook dinner.
Going down
you're
the rabbit hole, exactly.
It's like, I don't.
Again, like if you figure it out, please let us know. 'Cause we haven't figured it out yet either. I think like we've both known people who have tried to put parameters around their businesses and being an entrepreneur, and it just kind of doesn't necessarily work.
But yeah, you have to definitely be like strict about your parameters and about if you're making hours, then those are your hours, and you have to be very strict. And I know it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But people do it, but it's I think there's practice along with that too.
Now,
you know, so.
I would say that is something I've learned a lot in the years that I've been working for myself, is that I feel like when I first started out as a new stylist, especially on my own, I was more fear leading me, I guess, I'm like, well, if I don't reply quickly, I'm going to lose a client.
Right.
I quickly kind of shut that down because number one, if I'm operating in that mindset, I'm not going to like ever have like peace about my business. I'm always going to be of this stressed mindset, but also I'm going to like kind of let my clients rule me. You have to have boundaries with your clients. And then naturally you'll get clients that respect your boundaries, respect you.
Yep.
It's just a better fit for everybody. And so to your point, well, I do struggle with like, oh, there's the email. It's so easy to just reply right now.
Right.
If it's after a certain time of day, or if I'm in the middle of something really important with my kids, I would not respond to that. Like that's just, I don't really have a set cutoff time, but I guess in my head, I'm like, well, if it's after 8 p.m., I'm not responding to that email.
Yeah,
right.
Like it's just kind of like
it's kind of a dance.
Yeah, it is a dance because it is sometimes it depends on what the email content is. Like if I told someone I'd reply to them by end of day and then they're emailing me like, hey, I didn't get that image you said you were going to send, just checking in, then that's on me. Like, oh shoot, I did tell them that. I'm going to get that to them right now.
Yeah.
But
if it's making an appointment, then it's kind of like, we can wait until tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no real emergencies. Like in really outside of the medical industry, there's no real emergencies.
Right.
And that's something that she and I talk about in terms of housing.
Yeah.
There's no emergencies in real estate. Mark Berger, that's a burgerism, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's true.
It's very true, but oftentimes it will feel that way, that this is like a hot ticket item that needs to be addressed.
Right.
Whether it's something like that you alluded to that was forgotten earlier in the day that, I need to get right on that right now, or
You guys see that all the time in real estate with
Oh,
urgency of things.
Yes,
I can't
yes.
Oh, yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
This year has been better, but the 3 or 4 years prior to that, it was like everything was on fire all the time.
Yeah.
And it was very tough to set those boundaries.
With multiple offers like flying in, I'm sure clients were just
Yeah.
balls of stress.
Oh, yeah. As were we. Yes.
And it did feel like an emergency sometimes. But I think now a lot of people have, even like other colleagues in this industry, have more boundaries, and they don't necessarily expect a response at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night, which is kind of a running joke between the two of us.
So what challenges have you had within your business? Have you overcome them? Maybe you haven't overcome them. I mean, that's one of them, obviously, is like the time
I think
and figuring that out. But what else?
I think the biggest challenge is that because I work for myself and I don't have anybody else working for me, it's every job of the business is on me. So trying to stay organized, trying to stay consistent, because I feel like I'll do really well with certain systems of organization. And then it's like by that next month, I'm like, oh, wait, what did I stop doing? And then it's like you have to go through your list of a million things that you have to constantly be doing. Like, oh, yeah, I needed to order for that product or whatever it is. And just staying organized. I think also one of the bigger challenges I experienced in the past 2 years is just the economy. The economy has really impacted luxury services. I would say like hair, for the most part, people are still going to be needing hair services, color, cut, all of that. I mean, our hair is going to keep growing and you need to take care of it. People will space their appointments out a lot further than they used to, just again with everybody's tight financially right now. But where I really saw that was with permanent makeup. I mean, it was like I never really had to do much advertising. It was just word of mouth, and my books were full all the time. And then it was like probably right after everybody started getting back into the swing of things after COVID, and everybody started getting sick again because we were all around each other. It's like it started as a lot of reschedules that never got rescheduled. And then it was just this trickle down of like, what is happening? And then I was talking with my other friends who are in the industry, like, your book's as empty as my books are.
Oh, so it was
everybody was kind of panicking, like taking on other jobs, because it's like really kind of scary because you are reliant on your books being, what you've always expected them to be to pay your bills. So that was definitely the biggest struggle I've hit so far, was just that.
Trying to maneuver through that period of time.
Yeah. And but I do think that you have to be creative and learn where you need to pivot. I think when you hit this wall of like, well, I'm not getting anywhere with that right now, I have to find other avenues. So that was why I picked hair back up, and that's been really great. And naturally, I think because I wasn't stressing over the other, I was just staying consistent.
Yeah.
Now my books are filling back up again. So it was weird though, because I kind of felt, I don't know, almost like you feel like, I don't know what the word is, but I took it for granted before that I didn't really have to advertise too hard to get full books. And then all of a sudden I was like,
And you kind of
Yes,
had
I
to
do.
have this little
Maybe
thing
I
of
need to start
faith,
telling
too,
you.
you know, like, okay, if I keep on, because then you kind of like, okay, I'm going in this direction and I'm not getting anywhere. How much longer? Like, is it just
Yes.
around the corner,
Right,
or do
yeah.
I back
It
up
really
and then
is
go
this
this
faith,
direction?
like, come
And that's
on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone
to get
knows
the
I'm
inertia
great.
back. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, another weird factor that I hadn't considered at first, but the product that I use now for eyebrow tattooing, when people were starting to come back in, I was noticing like, oh my gosh, you haven't been here in 4 years. You haven't been here for a touch-up in like 3 to 4 years. Is pretty average now. And they're like, yeah, I didn't need it. And I'm looking closely at their eyebrow tattoo. It still looks so good.
Oh.
So the pigment quality is so much better than it used to be. And the techniques and all of that, it just lasts so much longer in the skin that people really weren't needing their brows touched up
Which
as
is
frequently.
good,
It's
right?
good. It's a better bang for your buck. I mean, I'm happy for you.
Right.
But also, I was like, oh, thank God it wasn't me.
When people started to come back around, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So initially, what was the difference, the time limit?
Oh my
between-
gosh. When I first started doing this, it was you need an annual touch up.
Oh, so
Yeah.
a 3 to 4 year in between then is like a
That's
pretty
like-
big shift.
Huge.
Ah.
Huge. And the pigment we used back then, it was just it fades out differently. It doesn't last as long in the skin. So it makes sense, but I just didn't know it would be that big of a difference. So I think it was kind of people intentionally waiting to hold off because it's pricey. And also thinking, well, I'm looking in the mirror. Things don't look bad.
Right,
I don't
right.
need this yet. So
For sure.
yeah, it's interesting.
What do you think is the biggest change that you've experienced in being an entrepreneur since you said a couple of decades that you've been,
Mhm.
I guess in the beauty industry, you've been a couple of decades. So how long have you been an entrepreneur?
So I left the salon that I worked for as an employee. I went out on my own in 2014.
Okay. So like a decade.
Yeah. And then I briefly was an employee again, like that employee dynamic with the person who had trained me in microblading. So that's also what kind of pushed me to go back out onto my own.
I think it's super tough after you've been on your own, have your own business
Yeah.
to try to make any kind of shift. I think that was one of the questions we asked you, like, could you ever do an 8 to 5 again?
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be a question I want to ask everyone that we
I
have
love
on
that
the show.
question. I love and I hate that question. So I answered it so quickly. I mean, when you sent
Uh-huh.
me that questionnaire, I kind of breezed through. I just scanned through each question like, okay, oh, that one, I know the answer. Like just
Yeah.
kind of answered them out of order. And then, funny enough, I'm driving here today and I'm like, I do love running my business and doing my business all myself. But I guess for the right price, maybe I could
And the
work
right
a 9 to 5.
hours and
Yeah,
the right
right. The
company.
right like dynamic and business. Yeah. No, I was kind of laughing to myself. I was like driving by the base. I was like, could I ever work at the base? I mean, this is where my brain goes.
Oh, yeah.
No,
You
I
gotta
don't
keep it
think I could
occupied up
ever
there.
work
Like
at the
never,
base.
never.
No, I don't think I could ever do like an 8 to 5 again.
Yeah, I don't think I could.
Where you have to be
honestly.
there from like 8 to 5 and just like hang out, even if you have
Even if
nothing
you don't
to
have
do.
anything to
Exactly.
do. Yeah. So my daughter,
Yeah.
Jenna, started working at Dick's recently. And one of her biggest beefs with this is there's nothing. Why don't they just like tell half of us to leave?
Yeah.
She said, I'm busier trying to look busy than I'm not
Oh,
even busy.
my.
I'm trying to make myself look busy. I'm like moving clothes from here to here and then moving some other clothes from here to
my
here,
gosh.
just trying to look busy. And I was like, yeah, that's a real job.
Right. That is
See,
That's a real
that
thing.
That would make my brain explode. Like
Yeah.
not that I'm addicted to being productive, but at the same time, maybe I'm addicted to be. No, I think if I were at a job where I was just sitting there thinking like I have nothing to do,
But I have so many other things to do
yes,
at home.
that's
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
Uh-huh.
even so much that I'm just sitting here bored. It's that I could be doing so many other things with this.
With this
limited
lull in
time in
time.
a day.
Right.
Yeah.
But I
I mean,
think that's
you know.
a mindset or the mentality of most business owners
Yeah.
is time maximization.
Right. It's not for
and-
everyone.
Correct.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're on all the time.
Yeah.
Other than the boundaries time. But even when you're not answering calls or answering emails,
You're
you're thinking about
3
it.
a.m.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
waking up and you're thinking about
And I
something you
do
forgot to
agree with you guys. I think once you have experienced entrepreneurial, like anything, your brain kind of just it thinks that way. You're always kind of looking at a situation like you could market that, you could turn this into that. Like even though I enjoy what I do so much, I still think all the time, what product could I sell? Like what could I? And then I haven't gotten there yet, but that is kind of a goal of mine to create some sort of residual income that could be working for me on the back end of things. So it's not like everything I do, I have to be physically present for.
Right.
And I want to find something that is working for me. I'm not physically
like passively creating some income. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love the idea of like selling a product of some sort.
What were you using on your face? I heard you mention it because you always look so glowy, and you said it was like from Sweden. What is that product?
So I got sucked into an Instagram ad.
Don't we all?
but it actually worked really well. It's from Iceland.
Okay.
I can't even remember. It's Froya, maybe. Froya is the brand.
Okay.
Now it's all going to pop up on our phone.
It'll all be, yep.
And everything's always like out of stock. That's the other annoying thing. But when it is in stock and you can order it and it arrives and use it, it's great. It's like these little balms that are in these little tins. And the system it was my daughter and I, she's 14. We bought this acne kit because I still break out at almost 40.
I do too. Is it in a silver tin?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the name of that? It's like acne, so they have an acne.
Froya, I'm pretty positive. And so Froya is like all marketed towards women, and then there's another. It's the same company, but it's a different name that they use for the teen. Yeah,
yes,
the teenage
that's
boys.
what I have. Yes,
okay, yeah. I believe it's the same product because I'm such a comment reader, so I'm reading all the comments, and people are like, "Is this the same thing as the Froya?" So I'm pretty positive it's the same thing, but it's a balm that has like beeswax in it, but it also has supposedly, again, it was an Instagram ad, but it is working anyway. It's supposed to be these plants that are from Iceland, and because Iceland has such like really aggressive cold winters, these plants are packed with vitamins to withstand the harsh winters. So when you ground them up and you put them into this balm, put it on your face, it's supposed to be like vitamins to your face.
Oh, interesting. And so your boys are onto this high-end stuff too. Did they see it on Instagram or did you see it on Instagram?
I saw it on Instagram because my son, he's 15 and he's constantly sweating. So it's kind of, and he's good about a routine of washing his face in the morning and the evening, but then it's kind of like, okay, and I was like, maybe we need some, and he's just at that age too, where it doesn't really matter. Like nothing can clear it up totally.
Right.
So it's just, so I was like, well, let's try this after we were on Proactive and Clinique and stuff like that. He's like, this doesn't seem like it's working anymore. Okay, well, let's try something else. So then I saw that, whatever it is. And it's like, one of his things, it's like a powder. And then you mix it up.
The purple powder. Yes. Okay, it's the same thing. I love this. What are the chances? Too? We just got sucked into that ad. It must have been good.
It must have been great.
Yeah. and he got a little water in it and it molded. So it's definitely natural product.
So that's true.
Interesting.
So all over the warning label, don't get water in this. Don't get water in this.
Well, we missed that
It's
warning.
real flowers. It'll mold. Yeah. I even bought on Amazon a glass like salt shaker because that tin that it comes in sucks. It just it dumps everywhere. How do you not get water in that?
Right.
So I bought that. Again, reading through the comments, someone's like, get a salt shaker. So I did. And that is great because you just put it out and you're not getting it moldy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
To know you're getting tips today too.
Yeah, he's trying something else now. He's like, I don't know if this is working anymore. So we're on to something else.
Okay.
That ADHD of skincare.
We got that.
So marketing. So how do you do your marketing? Speaking of marketing.
Mostly all social media. I've done some paid ads on Facebook and Instagram. I didn't really see a huge return on those.
Yeah.
I'm sure it boosted to audiences that weren't previously following me, like when you look at all of that. But mostly it's word of mouth. Honestly, it's that I'll post something, somebody will comment it on. It's funny, a lot of people will comment like, oh my gosh, that's my friend or that's my neighbor. Like they recognize their friends on my social media, not knowing like her brows always look so good. I didn't even know they were tattooed. That is the best compliment to me anyway. It's like when I want to give you a brow tattoo that you can't tell is a brow tattoo. I just want you to look refreshed like you.
Right. Natural.
Things are balanced, but I don't want it to come off immediately like, oh, so-and-so got their brows tattooed.
Oh, misconceptions about doing what you do.
That
Are
was
there
the other
any?
one.
I would assume that there would be tons.
There are a lot.
Okay.
It was hard to narrow it down to just one. There are two, though, that I guess would be tied biggest one with both are permanent makeup related. But the biggest one is ladies will come in who are like, say, 40 and up, and they will sit down and they'll say, I mean, probably only get young people. I'm probably one of your older clients. Like, and I just, every time I just, I'm like, no, not at all, actually. I would say the average client that I see is between like 40 and 70.
Because no one wants to mess with that anymore.
Yeah.
Keep their eyebrows.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to
No.
take the time to balance two different things on their face and then have it smear off throughout the day. Like, no one wants to fuss with it. And also, I have clients who are even older than that. Like, one of my great clients, she brought in her mother, who was in her 90s, to get her brows done. Which
that's
she was
awesome.
so sweet. But honestly, again, it's like, well, mom can't see as well anymore. She doesn't want to be
She still wants
messing
to
with
look
Yeah, and she wants to look
Yeah.
nice and balanced. And
Exactly.
I love
So
that.
I always like encouraging women because it's almost like they feel embarrassed, like, oh, I'm doing something that's for young people. It's not at all. I mean, it is for young people, but it's not
Everyone.
only for young people.
We can look good across the span of our lives.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. So you just do women?
Yeah, pretty
Really?
much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to doing
Mm-hmm.
male brows, but it's not really my specialty.
Right.
There are other like theories on like how it might age in the skin. Like usually microblading does blur over time. Anything hair stroke related blurs over time. So that would be something where if somebody who did want to get microblading done in the hair stroke method, and say it was a guy and he wants to get his brows done, I would be very open about that fact. Like, hey, this might look really good for the first
Trial and
couple
error,
years,
just to let you know.
but might look like you have shaded brows, powder brows here in about 5 years. Just being honest. So that's kind of what I've just taken the approach. Like, I'm not gonna do guys' brows, but I'll be honest that eventually they're gonna look more powdery than hair strokey.
Might not be the look.
That's interesting how it can look different because their skin is different. Basically, is what you're saying, right?
No, so that's just skin in general. So skin in general, sorry, I didn't make that clear. Skin in general, over time, it's going to take the ink and blur it out. That's just what is going to get absorbed into the skin. It's going to fade out as the skin, like, it's just naturally over years and years. Products that you put on your face, sun exposure, it's going to change and shift. With women, that doesn't seem to be as big of a problem because we just go back over it with new hair strokes or do a shaded look, which is done with a machine. So women are okay with it looking a little bit like makeup.
Okay.
Whereas men would be probably not wanting their brows to look like they have makeup.
Is there anything else that you want to share about your business that you feel like you want people to know?
Well, actually, right now is probably the best time to be getting it done during the colder months. I feel like most people know that, but maybe not everybody knows that. It's a little harder to get your brows done or any tattoo for that matter during summertime. Wedding, sun exposure, that sort of thing is kind of like the
You're going through
avoid
menopause?
list. Oh, but I have a lot of clients who are. And I always tell them just have like
Don't
a freezer
sweat.
nearby.
Oh, yeah.
Just run and blast your face in the freezer. Like, no, not kidding. Don't sweat. Yeah.
Just whip your little fan out.
Yeah, read your pre-care because a lot of people are like spin instructors or they do cardio every day. They do hot yoga or they sit in a sauna and sometimes they'll come in, they're all ready for their tattoo. I read through their pre-care and aftercare and they're like, what? Like, can't sit in my sauna? No, can't do that for like 10 days roughly. So yeah, wintertime is better.
Just to let it cure, it'll just like cure better. Is that kind of the reasoning behind it?
So salt in our sweat specifically, that eats away at pigment, just in general. But especially when it's new and you're opening the skin, you're putting those pigment molecules into a very specific layer of the skin, and you want it disturbed as little as possible to stay there and heal properly. So anything like especially sweating, those salt bits within our sweat, it's going to pick into that. It's going to just disrupt that pigment.
So what's some advice you would have for folks that are just getting into it now or like they're 18 years old and they're like, this is what I want to do. She is exactly what I want to do. Like what's some advice that, you'd be like, well, first of all, I did it this way and it probably should have been done this way. Like, is there anything in particular that you can think of or that you can guide in that direction?
I would say, regardless of if you're going more the hairstylist route or the permanent makeup route or the tiny tattoo route, you definitely have to get a solid education as to why you're doing what you're doing. You don't want to rush into it. You want to make sure that you're researching the trainers that you're going to go to. You want to go to quality trainers that really understand the health of the skin if you're doing tattooing, or like you want to make sure that they're putting out quality work, that they have a apprenticeship program that really is very hands-on. I work best by doing with my hands, and I feel like if it's something that's mostly all book work, but then still your learning is hands-on, it's hard for people like me to translate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I learn best from doing something. If you can find a trainer that is well-versed in just, again, the knowledge of everything and making sure it's done properly. And also, I would say maybe meeting with like somebody who can help you set up your business. If you're really wanting to work for yourself. Start with somebody. That's what I wish I would have
Don't be
done.
doing it on the fly.
No, and that I did a lot.
Which
on the
is, I
fly,
think that's
just
so many
figuring it out as I went.
I think that's most people are doing it on the fly.
Yeah.
But
well, because life doesn't slow down. I mean, I think if I had a hot minute to sit down and not have to make an income, I could be like, okay, I'll take this summer to really learn and meet with this person. But it's always like, nope, gotta get to work. So you're like doing everything. It's just you're doing everything at once.
Well, thank you for coming on. It was wonderful having you.
This was so fun.
We've learned a lot.
I feel like I learned quite a bit.
I would love to do this again.
So where can we find you?
Instagram is Kyle Walblay. And then Facebook, I'm on there too. So it's just Kyle Walblay, permanent cosmetics artist.
Okay.
And then my website is kylewalblay.com.
Okay.
And where are you located at?
So my business for permanent makeup is in Springboro.
Oh, you've got two different locations.
Yeah, so I'm at two different locations. I'm on the fence of if I'm going to keep taking new hair clients or not. I might put that on pause, so I don't want to necessarily advertise that.
Okay.
The ones who I already have, she's looking at me like, oh my God, what? The ones who I already have are good.
Coffee was all right.
Yeah. It was.
Oh, wait, let's do one more little cheers.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just do an end cheers.
Cheers.